We know a lot of the corporate migration that's coming into Texas is coming in the big cities, right? Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston. But what's happening is a lot of this migration is creating sprawl. Today, I interviewed the executive director of the Kaufman Economic Development Corporation, Stewart McGregor. We talked about a big project where the Development Corp purchased over 100 acres of land to accommodate some corporate relocations into the Kaufman County area. I hope you find this an interesting interview. I certainly did, and enjoy, because I want to learn a lot about what's happening in Kaufman, and I want you to talk about your new recent success.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and it's good to be with you. And I'm sure, as you probably know, being based here in Texas, Kaufman County is just, as you're aware of, is just east of Dallas County. We abut Dallas County as our neighbors to the west. And so with all the growth going on around the greater DFW region, Kaufman County, for the last couple of years, has been ranked the fastest growing county in the nation. And so the city of Kaufman, which is who I do economic development on behalf of, sits right in the dead center of it. And so, as I like to say, we're the center of growth. We've traditionally had a lot of the housing developers came along to some of the suburbs just to the west of us, and now they've started trickling in through our door here in Kaufman, along with some of our other neighboring areas and communities around us. And so we sit right along US Highway 175. It's a 35-minute straight shot into downtown Dallas. And so we're closer to downtown Dallas than a lot of those northern suburbs may be, especially from a traffic perspective, where you can get downtown a little bit easier. And so when I got here about 2 years ago as the EDC director, one of the things that I noticed is, with us as the county seat of Kaufman County, we get all the good things that come with that notoriety. We have the courts here, the county government's based here, all of those. We have the only hospital in the whole county. Texas Health Presbyterian has a branch here, but we didn't have a lot of land to land industry on, really to speak to the needs of what industry needs in today's world. And so, as we've seen over the last, especially 2 to 3 years since COVID has kind of changed the Texas economy and the landscape of things, industries moving quicker on projects. They're wanting to be in Texas. They're wanting to be, within in-time location close to the Metroplex. And so one of the things was when I first got here was locating some sites where we could maybe realize some of that. Most of the leads that I see coming in from the Dallas Regional Chamber, the Office of the Governor, a lot of those companies need minimum 40 acres. And when I started here, we had a couple privately owned sites that had some of those opportunities, but just didn't have a whole lot of it to be able to land something like that. And so the EDC had invested in a site many years ago before I got here, out off 175, and just adjacent to the north of it is where the county, due to the growth going on out here, built their new courthouse, has their sheriff's office, the pet adoption center, kind of centralized all of their governmental operations on that one campus. And so we own 40 acres right next to it. And just on the other side of us was property owned by Trinity Valley Community College, which is based out of Athens. And so we're part of their 5-county district here in Kaufman and have been for many, many years. And so I knew the president of TVCC from my time working in another community in this county. And so I approached him and his workforce VP, and we went to lunch down in Athens and just started having that casual conversation of, hey, what's your plans with this land? What are y'all looking to do? That sort of thing. And so at that point in time, they had kind of kicked around the idea of maybe building a skilled workforce training center on that property, and thought, that just makes too much sense of having the kind of convergence of education and industry right next to each other and the opportunities that could provide. And so we started talking, having meetings about that and what that could be. And over the next 2 years, we were having conversations. They had engaged an engineer on their side to kind of look at what they might be able to do as far as layouts of where my property could go, where maybe they might eventually put a facility on this site in the future, all of those different things. And dynamics kind of changed over those 2 years, and the president ended up deciding to retire. And after I think about 40 years of service to the college, he retired, and they brought in another gentleman from Arkansas, and his whole background working at that college was he was in Camden, Arkansas at, I believe, a Southern Arkansas Tech, and they were a training provider, basically a community college setting within a industrial park that served aerospace manufacturers. And so they had Lockheed Martin, Missiles and Fire Control is one of their major industries there. They had Dassault, they had a lot of those different manufacturers. And so he was very involved in providing training services to those various manufacturers. And when he came here to TVCC, he said, let's pivot and let's get more involved in corporate and workforce training. Let's do not only the kind of things that we think of when we hear workforce training, whether it's, training someone how to use a certain piece of machinery or things of that nature, but also how can we best leverage our training services to existing employers here when it comes to things like OSHA training or other maybe more white collar geared training for some of the management of some of these manufacturers within their whole district. And so in that kind of process of thinking about it, he said, really what I would prefer more of, instead of building an actual facility, I could see us doing more on-site training with the employer at their facility, or maybe using one of our existing spaces to be able to do some of that training. And so one of their board members, when I ran into him at the most recent retired president's retirement party, he said, Stewart, I think y'all should buy all 105 acres from us, because we had made an offer on about 65 of the 105. And I said, well, let me go back. I'm going to have to sharpen my pencil and see how that might work out here. Fastest growing county in the nation is great as far as the growth coming in, but it also means a lot for property values and everything else. And so I went back and started looking at things and kind of trying to piece together stuff, had them get an appraisal on the whole 105 acres. And during that time period, we found out, I thought that it was owned by the college itself and that we'd have to go through their, state mandated bidding process and those sorts of things. And found out that it was actually donated to their foundation. And so it was basically a separate 501c3 that we would need to work with in acquiring this property from them. And so that definitely helped as far as some of the red tape you get into when you're working to do acquisitions from governmental agencies and that sort of thing. And then obviously having willing parties through the college that wanted to work with us and saw the value of that. And the partnership that could create was definitely a major plus in helping kind of bring this to fruition. And so they got the appraisal done. And while after they got that done, we got our heads together. And one of the things that I emphasized to them and that they understood as well is that this transaction wasn't just a typical private transaction where I write a check and they give me the deed and we all move on to our own personal lives and doing things. This is a true partnership that's going to last for years to come. And so what I showed is I engaged a consultant out of Fort Worth that does taxable value studies, and they took the entire 40 acres already owned plus 105 they had, and they did a fairly conservative analysis, I would say, in working with them of at build out on an industrial deal, how much space would this support as a site and how much in new taxable values would it bring? The city, I do an economic development here. I'm obviously looking out for the taxable values that we could generate as a community for the city and the school district and the county, but also, with the community college and what they do, they collect property tax as well. And so we commissioned that study, and they came back and told us that they anticipated that the site would generate approximately 1.2 million square feet in new industrial space, and about almost $340 million in new taxable values between the real and the business personal property. And so, which is huge, because right now the city of Kaufman, you just look at us as a city, I believe our entire taxable values are around the $800 million mark. And so this is going to generate like 44% of what we currently have on the whole rolls in our county. And by the way, we're not putting a single house on this property. We're not putting a single kids in the school district on this property. And so it creates a tremendous amount of value to carry this city into the future. I mean, we're going to be doubling in population as a city over the next 7 to 10 years. We're at about 8,000 now, and we'll be about 15, 16,000 next 17 years. County already has almost 200,000, continues to add more and more each year. And so what we did was we took that information data, and then I aggregated it and showed it to the college board of trustees and said, look at what this is going to generate for y'all. This is going to be generating upwards of $1 million for the college, without necessarily putting a student in their seats, but would generate, potentially some workforce training opportunities and that sort of thing. And so in an effort in working with them on buying that property, they have a building here in Kaufman that serves as kind of as they say, their Kaufman campus. It's a 2-story building that they've been a tenant in for many, many years. And so that building had some available space left in it. And we've been trying to figure out with them over the last couple of years what kind of special role that plays in their system. It's not a full-blown campus. It's not going to be something where you can come and take 15, 16 hours of classes every semester and get that, true college experience. And so what special role does that play? And from talking with their new president and the emphasis that he has on wanting to position TVCC as more of a training entity, we kind of gravitated back towards that corporate and workforce training function. And so we were actually buying the property at a little bit less than what it appraised for. And so one of the things that we did as far as structuring the deal was the Kaufman EDC is actually going to be providing a $100,000 grant to the college to help with some renovations for their Kaufman facility here, where we'll have a special name and a special role, where we can have corporate and workforce training programs where, if we have a new employer come into town here, they can have their training there. They need to have a temporary place to have onboarding and interviews, and that becomes the hub for that. If you're another employer in this area and need some space to have a corporate management meeting, you think of this facility here. And so over the next several months, we're going to be working with TVCC and our local representatives from their board and some of their upper management, helping plan out how this facility can best play a role. And really kind of my vision for it is, let's make it something that's going to rival something that you're going to see in a downtown Dallas or a downtown Austin, where you can have a training center here that serves this whole growing area of the Metroplex, but without having to drive into a major city to get those kinds of services.
Well, I mean, what an amazing story. Just, the whole journey that you explained to me, but think about the timing with, the legislature now coming out with some funding for community colleges, a lot of the trades taking front and center with economic development. And now you've got this facility. And, my understanding is you're going to be looking for whether it's corporate headquarters or warehouse space, industrial. Tell me a little bit about what you envision being in this space.
Yeah, what we're seeing on the dynamics front out here is Kaufman County overall has a great story to tell on the manufacturing industrial front. So all the communities out here have major manufacturers in each of their cities. I have 3 major manufacturers here, 2 in the metal fabrication sphere, and then 1 in the promotional product sphere. And so what we're looking at for this property is diversifying our industrial base, really hopefully delving more into the advanced manufacturing of what we're seeing, as well as food and beverage processing, with us being kind of on the edge of East Texas, but also right part of the 8 million people in North Texas. It just makes too much sense to source your raw materials, bring them here, process it, ship it out to the North Texas area. But also cold storage, as we're seeing in the real estate market right now, there's tremendous demand and capital for new facilities for those sorts of uses. Also maybe potentially even some data centers too. We're seeing a lot of that activity with AI and the various things going on in that world right now. And so that's really kind of what we're trying to target. You know, metal fabrication is a legacy of ours, and so that'll continue to be a target industry for us. But all of those things where our workforce aligns with that growing population that's coming up. And really a strong focus for this site is going to be on job quality too. You know, I as the EDC, and as one of, you know, about 700 economic development corporations throughout the state of Texas, we obviously have an economic mission to expand our local tax base, to grow those sorts of things in our community. But we also have a social mission too. And that social mission is to help people get jobs, help people expand into better paying jobs. And so one of the things that we're going to be really highlighting on this side as we source tenants and different companies that are looking at expanding this way is, what's that job quality going to be too? Because we want to make sure that we're creating a community where people have the opportunity to move up and to grow and thrive in their careers, and be able to prosper and buy homes and all the various things that they need to do to be successful in raising their families.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about a mid-scale hotel.
Yeah, so we when I got here 2 years ago, the residents around here, people I go to church with and everything, tasked me. They said, okay, we have 3 things that we're asking you for. They said, we want a Chick-fil-A, we want a Lowe's or a Home Depot, and we want a good upper mid-scale limited service hotel. And I thought, you know, those really aren't asks that you're making of me that are shooting for the moon. I think those are all reasonable things to ask for in a town this size and with the growth projections we have. And so we got to working on that in addition to focusing on industry diversification as well. And so thankfully we had a group that came to us about 1.5 years ago that was introduced to me by a local guy here in town. And they're in the hotel business. And so they found a site in our main retail corridor here and bought it. And we worked with them to get approvals from Hilton to allow them to put a Hampton Inn here. So we'll have a Hampton Inn where I think we're going to finally develop a little bit of a skyline around here in Kaufman with a 4-story hotel that'll be here right by this site, and look forward to more of that happening around here too.
A lot of the corporate and residential migration that's coming into the state is coming from the coasts and the big cities. And with the projections that Kaufman has, what do you see the profile looking like? And do you see a lot of this bleed coming in from the big cities where people are looking for more land, looking to be closer to work?
Yeah, a little bit of all things above. We've had, obviously, we have about 3,000 housing units, as I mentioned, in the pipeline, and that's going to double our city's population over the next several years. And so that's driving people not only just from within the Metroplex that are wanting to move out here, but also out of staters too that have decided they want to come to Texas, but they may not be in a position yet where they want to live in a urban core of a Metroplex, but yet be close to all those amenities. Case in point, I have a company here in town called Gallagher Industries, and they relocated a couple years ago to a building in a community near Kaufman, and came to us not long after they relocated that facility out this way from California, and decided to come down and talk to us because they had outgrown their facility where they were. And I called the EDC director in that community and said, hey, I've had a conversation with this company. He said, yeah, we just haven't been able to get them a bigger home, and they're growing so fast that they need the speed to market of a building, and we just don't have that. And so they moved their operation down here to Kaufman. They still have their facility in California, but not long after they moved here, I got a call from a local contractor here in town who was engaged to help them on a project to expand this facility. And so they manufacture a lot of truck bed materials. And so those big trucks that don't have the box around it, that's just the wooden bed with the metal lining around it, that's what they specialize in. And so it's kind of a niche industry, and they supply a couple of the manufacturers in this area that do that sort of work. And so we talked with them earlier in 2023, and they were needing to add about a 24,000 square foot building and eventually house a finger forming line where they could take some of this wood that they were importing from Asia and cut it and then meld it together so that they could make these longer beds available to their clients that needed longer truck beds for these sorts of deals. And so we worked a deal out with them, and they'll be adding about 10 new jobs, about $1 million investment. I believe part of that too is the corporate management from California moved when they came out here. And so I believe that they will probably at some point designate Kaufman as their headquarters over their facility in California that they still have. So we have people moving here just like them that are, maybe had more of a small town or manufacturing background in another state that have moved here and found success in Kaufman. But then we also have the people who are professionals, people that may work for AT&T or Encore or some of those major employers that are headquartered in downtown Dallas. As much as we did not want to experience COVID in 2020 and some of the things that it led to for some people, Kaufman benefited economically from it with what happened with the interest rates that we saw. When that happened, what coincided with that was our school district received an A rating from Texas Education Agency. And so we're one of 2 A-rated school districts in the whole county. And so, you can get a little bit more house for a little bit less money. You may be a hybrid worker. If you may go into the office in downtown Dallas 3 times a week or something, then have the ability to work from home the other 2 times a week. And so it just made a lot of sense as from a quality of life perspective for people that may have been living closer into the Metroplex to get their kids in a smaller school district that still had a high quality education available for them, a little bit bigger house for less money, but then still has the proximity to enjoy all the amenities that the DFW Metroplex provides.
No, I think that's how things are playing out right now. The counties on the outskirts of the big cities are seeing a lot of the benefit. From migration. So I'm reading here the 145 acres are in an opportunity zone, meaning landowners can qualify for tax benefits. And that also means under the state's new Chapter 403 incentives, projects could qualify for tax abatements on 75% of the property value for school district property taxes. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was a pretty cool little thing when it all coincided and came together like that. I actually I've had the honor of serving the last year as the legislative chair for the Texas Economic Development Council, our state association. And this last legislative session, one of the things that we were obviously trying to do was create a new, transparent, innovative tool that would allow Texas to continue to compete to land some of these large projects that we're seeing, the mega projects, as the site selectors deem them, that are, the TIs of the world, the Samsungs of the world. And as much as we love to toot our horn and how excellent the Texas economy is, we did not want to lose that moniker of being the #1 state to do business in. And passing a tool like that was very important for all of us and us as economic developers that do this work day in, day out. And so we worked on with several members as well as other associations in helping bring that to fruition. Can't thank enough the work of Hushon and Todd Hunter in the House and really helping lead the charge along with Speaker Phelan. And then obviously Lieutenant Governor Patrick and the Senate that worked with us on that end as well. And so we worked through that bill, through the process. When it got over to the Senate, it kind of got changed. There were a lot of different language changes they added in there. And so, and then kind of at the last minute, before they ended up passing it out of the Senate, they added a provision. And I believe the Dallas Chamber was involved in some of these negotiations in basically creating a extra bump incentive on top of what it already provided if you were to locate projects in an opportunity zone. And so we did not, that kind of came as a last minute surprise to us. But when we were going through that, I didn't necessarily have any plans to include that in there until I saw that come in there, and it just kind of ended up just falling right into place and benefiting this site here in Kaufman, since this already sits in opportunity zone. And so instead of the traditional 50% abatement, which the state's going to make the school districts whole on those sorts of deals. So it's not necessarily like they're giving up stuff. The state is filling in the gaps. This provides a 75% abatement. And so it gives it a lot better bump to be able to invest in some of these areas in Texas that may not have traditionally gotten this level of investment in them. And so we're definitely wanting to leverage that as another opportunity with this site, of it being located in opportunities, and not only for the state benefits, but also for the federal benefits, since it does provide a deferral on capital gains. And so, you know, we as economic developers look at ways that we can best position our community. And I think that this site definitely positions us in a unique position because it's publicly owned land by the Economic Development Corporation, which in DFW is becoming rarer and rarer these days. Yep. Sits along a major highway, and it has an opportunity zone overlay that qualifies for both state and federal benefits. And so a lot of good things that could come out of this that we're excited and looking forward to.
Well, look, that's what this bill was for. I mean, there's projects like this, properties like this. You throw in the community college and the training and the middle skilled jobs that this is going to fill. I mean, really, this is the poster for what the bill was supposed to accomplish. So how can people learn if they're looking for a location? How can they learn about getting involved, who to call about locating?
Sure. You're welcome to, everyone's welcome to reach out to me. Our website is Kaufman, that's with K, kaufmanedc.com. And then, but the easiest way to get a hold of me is to either give me a call, 972-932-5332, or my email is smcgregor@kaufmantx.org. And so that's the best way to get a hold of me. It's you know, I've been around Texas my whole life. I'm a native of North Texas, grown up around here. And it's so cool to be able to work in a community like Kaufman right now that's on the rise, that's growing, that has tremendous opportunities ahead for it. And be able to kind of be a part of that ground level growth that we're experiencing and helping kind of build our future, and build the economy that we're looking for out here, in attracting the right industries that are going to make a major difference for us for years to come.
Yeah. Well, Stewart, we're going to be following. This is very interesting, and I'm excited to learn a lot more about that part of North Texas. I think people will as well. What's your favorite part of the region of the Kaufman County area? What's your favorite part?
As we kind of call around here, the East Dallas submarket. One of the things I think that I just love is I love the atmosphere that we have out here. It still retains a lot of that kind of small town atmosphere, even though it's part of the Metroplex. I grew up in a much bigger city. I grew up in Arlington, which is a very convenient location right in the middle of DFW. But I love going around town, eating at a restaurant, running to people that I know, seeing people out milling around at some of our small businesses on our historic square that we have here. There's a lot of quaint things that you get here. And so we're definitely tied into making sure we preserve kind of that small town country feel along with embracing that growth. And so that's what I really like about being out here.
Well, and how long would it take you to get to a Mavs game or even a Cowboys game in Arlington?
Oh, it's not long at all. I mean, I've been to, there's been several occasions where I've gone to a concert after I've gotten off work here, driven into Dallas, got there in 35 minutes. I've gone to, multiple Rangers games, and, it may take me 45 minutes to an hour to get to a Rangers game. Love Field's, 45 minutes from here. DFW Airport's an hour from here. And so it's very convenient to get to some of those large, big city amenities that you want to be a part of.
Yeah. And that's what these out-of-state companies are looking for, is, an area where they do have more land, a little less expensive, but in proximity to these amenities that people are looking for, especially if they're coming from big cities. So it's a great story. I'm, like I said, interested in following it. Stewart, thanks for coming on. And I hope to catch up with you real soon.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Appreciate all you do for YTexas. And look forward to seeing good things come about in Kaufman this next year in 2024.